Startup ecosystem, what the idea is that you have to learn how to pitch your idea clearly and concisely. And once you learn how to do that, then you can bring in all the stakeholders and you can get into programs that'll help you and train you on how to build it. But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast, and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got Startup on the Blocks. So I need you to start coming to Startup on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive. And so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of like that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America, we do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally. And we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about and language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and then I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow. Send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Startup on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard, and Lloyd is here. He's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Startup on the Blocks.
Welcome, welcome to Startup on the Blocks. Hello, hello. How are you, Dr. White?
I'm doing good, Lloyd. Thank you for having me, my friend.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you back on. And I guess are you planning on being up in Detroit next month?
I will be there. It's like 2-3 weeks from now, but I'll be there.
Okay. Yeah, I can't even think that far either. Yes, yes. But yeah, that'll be pretty nice to visit Detroit for our sustainability conference. Yes. So I'm going to start off and share my screen and just give a little shout out to some of our partners and sponsors. Yeah. And of course, I know you're going to be familiar with some of them.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yes. Yes. So it's what we're doing here with the Kakui Institute. We consider ourselves part of the startup ecosystem, providing support for founders. And I guess you could probably consider yourself the same way. Your organization and you're providing support for founders and their families and others. Yeah. So we partner with each other. We partner with organizations like these, but we also partner with organizations that have training stuff. And so our primary platform we use is the Lean Stack platform to help founders with all the milestones that a founder has to go through. And then we use the startup science, this light bulb thing, to help the founders understand the life cycle phases of a startup and how to manage your startup through those. And then for Make Startups, we use them a platform because this is a certification platform, but it also it's called Co-Founder OS, and it actually grades the founders on how well they answer questions about their startup. And so that's pretty powerful. So you can get some immediate feedback and improve how you answer questions. And that's important because all these resources out there in the ecosystem, when you fill out an application for all these startup programs, these startup programs that the big corporate companies have, the accelerator program, pre-accelerator program, you have to answer questions about what your business and so that makes startup things help you learn how to answer them thoroughly, and so that's what most important. And as a result of doing that, and why we've been here for almost 5 years now, is to help people understand, founders understand, if you learn how to answer questions to get in these pitch competitions or these programs that you're going to leverage to fund your startup, then you would have a better chance on succeeding. And so that's why we're here, to make sure you have all the knowledge that you need to do it. And yeah, so that's kind of the approach we use with curating these partners and organizations like Blacks in Technology. They have a lot of members. So we help their members learn these best practices.
Mhm.
And of course, you know about the Black Innovation Alliance, and I understand a congratulations is due because you got some money here recently from.
Yes, thank you, thank you. We're winners of the trust cohort, essentially helping innovator support organizations, stabilize so that we can continue to do the work that we're doing. So thank you, Lloyd.
Yes, that's great. And so that's what's important about being involved in all these organizations. And I'm pretty sure you're aware of the Black Innovation Leaders of Florida because you've been helping us out on that. And Goody Nation, I don't know if you had any interaction with them yet.
Listen, Goody Nation is founded by a rattler.
I know.
Yes, we keep doing great things.
Yeah, Joey, yeah, and he's really going after after stuff now. So if depending on where you think you are in your startup journey, if you're a founder out there, it'd be definitely good to apply for that Goody Nation program. And of course, we're all about AI, and that's what Pitch Bob is about. It's an AI thing that helps you with your startup. Coda as well. It's that we're partners with them, and that's pretty interesting. And I got an email the other day because we are partners with Coda, and I don't think it's because we're partners with them, but they you create documents and you can share the documents, and if somebody becomes a paid subscriber, that you get like a referral fee. And I got an email said I had a couple $100 or something. I said, well, what's that? But literally, what's neat about that program, it's a maker space. But yeah, and plus they provided to our founders free for 6 months, and you get unlimited AI, and you can talk to your documents and create documents based on chat. And you can integrate to a lot of things as well. Now, you can't get too far without money, so these are a bunch a lot of my money partners, and also they also got some support, provide service partners as well. So it's a whole big community, and it's the way to go forward. Let's see. So speaking of opportunities for founders, no matter where you are, all over the world, you can apply for our Black Founders Program. And the key thing about that is not really even applying, you just taking a class. And so we combine with the Lean Stack, and we introduce some AI stuff in there to help you with your business planning. And so you get to build a scalable business model. And so the tool we have in there, it allows you to start building a scalable business model in about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so it's not, it's just based on what your financial goal is and what your growth rate is, but it's powerful. You get the traction roadmap that tells you what you need to do from day 1 to 3 years from now. So it's pretty fabulous, thing to do. So here are the details on that. The application is open right now, and it closes on the 9th of next month, and the actual class will meet once a week, and it starts on June 16th. And then, but up until June 16th, the next couple of Mondays or so, we're going to have some prep sessions to get you ready for it. And so just the main thing is just to go to this apply.kakuinstitute.org. It's just a short form that helps you, gets you in there. And then in the weeks leading up to it, if you come to our sessions, you'll have your business model already did, and then so when we start going through the workshop and the classes, it would be like this, second time hearing about it. So it's pretty neat thing. So just introductions are due here. So all right, Dr. White, tell us, introduce yourself in a couple of minutes here.
Okay, I can tighten it up. And especially because we know each other, right? But as I share, so I'm streaming it to Instagram. Hey, to folks on Instagram, to my friends and connections on LinkedIn. For those that are not familiar with the work that I do, I am Dr. LaTanya White. I am the founder and creator of Dynastic Wealth. Dynastic Wealth is a framework. It's a evidence-based and a research-informed approach to helping first-generation wealth creators, and specifically Black and Brown founders, get the tools to talk with their families in this healthy way about money and wealth. How do we get everybody on the same page? And then, kind of navigate through our financial trauma, do some healing from that space so that we can build wealth in these 5 forms. And that's really the heartbeat of Dynastic Wealth, these 5 forms of wealth, which I'm excited to talk about and how it relates to the startup journey.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, and that's definitely important. To kind of learn that. And so we're definitely going to dive deep into that. And so it's probably been, I don't know, it's been a while since we had you on so a lot has happened over, the past 6 months or more. So so kind of what has changed for you over the past 6 months or so that,
Sure.
From the way you've been working your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first connected, so that it'll be 3 years.
Yes.
Oh, wow. We're getting old, boy.
Yeah, at least mine is showing I got all this gray stuff all around.
But when we first connected, I was, really, and I was in the startup phase with Dynastic Wealth, and I was focusing almost solely on the entrepreneurial journey. So I spent 11 years teaching entrepreneurship at our shared alma mater, the College of Love and Charity, Florida A&M University. And those 11 years was really just providing your basic technical assistance. So similar to what a founder would get when they come through some of the programming and courses that you offer with, I was introducing students to business model canvas and to Blue Ocean strategy. But I found that, and I even had rapid prototyping as a part of the grade in the course. I tried to convince the students, I even put it in my syllabus, that I was just serving as their business coach. I said, think of me as your business coach. You got me for 16 weeks. What are we going to do together to make this idea a reality? And I have some insights around how the educational system is designed, that it just did not really support that innovative thinking. We weren't really creating students and learners who were open to taking risks, right? Because to rapidly prototype an idea means we're going to fail, right? We're going to fail fast. We're going to be rejected. And culturally, those are just concepts that we tend to not be open to. So one of the things that kept coming up in my experience in the classroom was I always felt like I couldn't take the students to the next step.
Gotcha.
So I spent those 11 years providing the technical assistance. I worked with the Small Business Development Center at FAMU. But when I got to the point where I was doing my dissertation research on Black entrepreneurship and its relationship to the racial wealth gap, that's when the scales fell from my eyes, like Paul on the road to Damascus, right? That I had lived experiences and professional exposure that made me more open to taking risk, right? I mean, I got to a point in my life at one point, I was like, well, if I survive that, I'm willing to try anything. But that was a personal point of privilege that I was not considering that other people hadn't had. They hadn't developed that risk propensity to failure and to rejection. But child, please, I get rejected every day.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So,
those yeses for sure.
absolutely. And so when we were first connecting, I was really focused on, okay, I can get past the technical assistance part. Let's talk about when you become profitable, when
Yes,
you experience economic mobility, because nobody teaches you what to do with the money. Nobody
yes,
tells you how to be a, a good steward of the entrepreneurial wealth that you're creating. And dynastic wealth was really about how do we change this narrative? How do we stop being so excited about this abstract concept, generational wealth, to making it concrete, strategic, and intentional? And with dynastic wealth, it is focusing on, yes, we have financial wealth, that's the foundation, but let's really talk to our families. And this is how things have evolved a bit since we were first together. Is really making it easier for the founder to bring the family in to that work around protecting the wealth and transferring the assets. And I'm really excited about creating tools that are going to help the founders and their families simultaneously.
great, great. And folks in the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. We're here to help and support you in your journey here. So you got Dr. White. She's definitely an expert on Black folks and entrepreneurship and dynastic wealth. So yeah, if you want some of that, you better chime on in and ask questions. Be curious. Be curious. Yep. And so that's the cool thing about that. Yeah. So I was kind of getting at, so like you definitely made a lot of progress. And so like with all this, and it seems like we over the last year or so, there's been a lot of pushback on diversity efforts. And so I was trying to, my question was relating to how you kind of been navigating since all this stuff happened.
Sure. I'm it's still all black everything, right? There's that Issa Rae meme, and she's like, they ask her, "Who are you rooting for?" I'm rooting for everybody black.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say, so there is a significant part of my research that looks at the history of wealth distribution in America. And I
Yes.
study, 150 years of the boosts and barriers to building wealth. And it's not surprising for some of us who are, in tune and kind of paying attention to what's happening now and what's happened historically.
Yeah.
But it basically boils down to the fact that if you are a cisgender white male, you face barriers in building wealth. And I mean, there is the United for Fair Economy was a resource that I use, and it broke down by ethnic background. So
Yes.
Native American, Black and African American, Hispanic and Latino, Asian American, and Pacific Islander, they broke down every different ethnic background, the specific barriers to building wealth that we have faced. And so, to
Okay.
your question, Lloyd, one of the things that I found as I've presented more about dynastic wealth in other spaces is there are ethnicities who I am telling their story, right?
Yes.
And for me, I remember presenting to the Department of State. They
Okay.
put together about 100 entrepreneurs, African diaspora entrepreneurs, I mean, Black founders from around the world.
Okay.
And I remember I was so nervous because it was all research based on the experience in America.
Yes.
And I'm talking to Black founders from Japan, Australia,
Okay.
Spain, Colombia, and at the end of it, I remember her name was Grace. Grace is a Black Australian founder. And she came up to me and she said, I know you were a little, worried about your research being based in the States, but what you're telling people is what I'm experiencing in Australia.
Okay.
And so it kind of blew my mind that there's anti-blackness in every part of the world, and that the beauty of dynastic wealth is it still tells our story. It still elevates the
Gotcha.
richness of our experiences.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think, with all the, you know cutbacks on diversity, all the, and anti stuff there, it's literally trying to continue that those roadblocks for moving you forward.
Yes, absolutely. There's too many similarities. Too many similarities.
Yeah, yes. And so to me, it's important that you know how to maneuver around all this stuff,
Mhm.
kind of grow your business, and learn some of these best practice and some of this knowledge,
Mhm.
that you're sharing, and that what we're sharing is to help you, definitely overcome some of these, barriers and strategies. And so, but based on all these barriers and strategies, how does that typically affect the Black founder?
So another kind of evolution to your question, one more evolution that I really embraced and embedded into the work of dynastic wealth and working with founders and the innovator and entrepreneur support organizations that like undergird them
Mhm.
is naming, helping people to recognize, name, and process our financial trauma.
Okay.
So I was introduced to the concept of financial therapy.
I've never heard.
Um, I hadn't either. I was like, but it makes sense, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because when you think about some of our lived experiences, our childhood, our
Mhm.
money mantras, our relationships with money, oh, that's definitely going to show up in how we run our businesses,
For
right?
sure. For
That
sure.
means because if we aren't managing our personal finances or if we spend the money as soon as we get it, and I'm that way with my business. When I say when, of course covering the expenses, but every penny goes back into the business as
Mhm.
opposed to finding a way to invest it into a vehicle that can make money while I'm waiting or generating income somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So those money mantras, they show up in how we operate the business. Are we willing to invest enough in the business to grow, or are we going to stay bootstrapping things because we're used to scarcity mindset? We're used to things not happening the way we think they will. We're used to not having enough money in the bank. And now we're talking about from the perspective of the business.
Mhm.
So, how are you making investments to improve operational efficiency? How are you making investments in yourself as the
Mhm.
founder or the key person operating the business?
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's definitely, a challenge, kind of moving forward, based on your, upbringing and what you learned culturally. And
Mhm.
and what I learned, I've taken a couple of trips over to Africa in the past few years, and so what was, one of the takeaways was that your DNA, your mannerisms, the way you act and the way you look, it keeps getting passed down through all those generations. And the folks over in Cameroon and Sierra Leone, they can look at you and tell you which tribe you're from just based on your mannerism. And so I'm guessing that mentally, with all the trauma you faced, your generations have faced, I guess that's being, passed down as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us a little bit about your framework for those folks that are new. So and also some of the ways they can access this, because I know, like, last year, you had partnered with, organization in Florida that was making your platform available, all over. And what is that still going on?
Yes. So, so there was the Capital Readiness Program, which was under the Minority Business Development Agency, which
Oh no, oh no.
yes. Oh no. Right. So with with CRP, with the Capital Readiness Program, it was reauthorized by Biden. Now, to be authorized again means that it had been authorized at some point before then, right?
Yeah.
And initially it was authorized under the Obama administration.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it just had, it was just in the crosshairs from the beginning. If you got Obama and Biden's name on something, but what it allowed for was to provide no cost technical assistance to business owners who identify as, from socially or economically disadvantaged backgrounds. So through the Capital Readiness Program, I was, to your point, able to build out an online version of the Dynastic Wealth Framework. And one of the things that I did was with the founders that I had been working with, I said, you still have the link to my calendar. Please schedule time with me because I'm still committed to your family dynasty. I'm still committed to helping you change the narrative for the 3 and 4 and 5 generations that are coming behind you. Because I feel deeply called to that work, especially having been working with the SBDC. When I was there, I don't know anything about estate planning, succession planning. So how could I transfer that knowledge to a founder? And I'm really working to cover that spread, right? To cover the gap between as you move through the entrepreneurship ecosystems, at what point am I prepared for an exit? At what point am I prepared to talk with my family about the economic mobility we're experiencing? And that's a lot of what I'm doing with Dynastic Wealth, but definitely excited to unpack the different pillars of it.
So we'll let you do that. But I did, since you mentioned that you had an online platform so folks could actually take the class, and so is that platform still available for folks? And do you charge them a fee for accessing it now that the Capital Readiness Program is gone?
Yeah, so it actually is under its own 2.0 version. So there was, there were some silver linings that came out of that. What I needed to do was really refine it and make it easier to access. Also, being a recovering professor, having spent 11 years in the classroom, sometimes you're convinced that you have to fill up time in order for it to be valuable. But with Dynastic Wealth, because it's so action oriented, I had to condense it. I had to make sure people had enough time and space to process, right? We're talking about Plessy versus Ferguson and redlining. That's really heavy. So I had to hold space for people to be able to process it and then come back ready to take action on this is your next step to envision spiritual wealth for your family.
Gotcha. So now you can go ahead and tell us about your Dynastic Wealth. Yes.
So there are 3 major distinctions between Dynastic wealth and generational wealth. The first one is the number of generations that are accounted for, literally, and especially as a founder, you're accounting for 3 generations into how you operate the business. But I mean, how do you do that, right? On a day-to-day basis, when you're trying to make sure that you keep the lights on. And it comes down to a lot of the stuff that you are sharing and teaching them, and that's operational efficiency. How do we make sure that this job can be done by somebody other than yourself? And that means documenting your systems, making sure, you're creating training models and modules and things of that nature, and also communicating the thought process and the strategic thinking that is lending itself to these executive decisions that are made. Now, I'm a solo founder. My 10-year-old daughter, she works in the business, and what I find that I have to do, because it's all up here for me, I'll get on, and because I also do a lot of work on my computer, it's not very much one-to-one or group interaction right now because I'm, transitioning and building. So one of the ways that I document our systems, I'll turn Loom on and it just records what I'm doing on my whole screen. So if that means, I'm going from tab to tab to
Yeah.
tab, right? It documents that. And I also sometimes will talk through the steps that I'm taking so that when I bring on my first my first key employee, they see the history, they see the evolution of
Yeah.
how this process,
Yeah.
came about.
Yeah, there actually is an application that when you record yourself like that, it actually generates the SOP for what you do. You know, I have to look it up, but there is an app for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and so yeah, we definitely because I think I'll share my screen real quick here. Yeah, but I did a prompt, created a prompt that the founders can actually use to kind of help start. Um, so this first prompt here, that's just for whatever your business idea is.
Mhm.
It'll generate the deliverables that are in the 30-day business model design course. So like this preview here is that you just put in what your business idea is and the industry, then it actually generates all the business planning for you and to tell you all the different ways you can make money with it and stuff like that. But based on what you're talking about is this business operations prompt. That was a prompt that was created just to do what you were saying about the automation, to get all this information you actually need for the organization. And so let me get back to here. So I'll put this
Okay.
link in the chat. So it's the resources that we, created to help founders out. It's kind of like a little resource area, and it's got other stuff in it. And I can just show you that real quick. So if we got an overview of a 30-day business model design program. We got an overview of the 90-day business model design program, and then we got some AI. What I just showed you, the prompts. Then we have a list of agents, and we're going to keep adding to this list of agents that you can actually use, and then these AI platforms that are available to kind of help you, like Cascade. You can build AI agents, you can build workflows and automations. Same thing with Coda, you can build your automations there. And this is one that Vince created. It's a lean stack thing. Replit, that's kind of really hot right now. So it's the vibe coding thing. So you can build an application. And I started experimenting with that last week. And believe it or not, I have an application in the works. And so it's pretty neat. There's a bunch of tools in there. But there's a new tool that I'll tell you about and some of the other folks about as well. But yeah, that getting your workflow stuff down, it's really important to document those processes. So you said that's a really key thing with this generational wealth thing.
Dynastic wealth, yes. Because with a family won't even reach dynastic status until the third consecutive generation takes control of the wealth or of the assets. And so that's where the first generation founder really has to shape how the business operates, document how the business operates. So that's one of the major distinctions, those 3 consecutive generations.
Okay.
And then we're talking about how do we transfer wealth?
Okay.
In most cases, when we're talking about generational wealth, we usually are only talking about passing wealth down, right? We're talking about to my children, maybe my grandchildren.
Gotcha.
For dynastic families and with the framework for dynastic wealth, what I do is ensure that founders understand how to transfer wealth in 4 directions.
Okay, go.
I can transfer wealth down to Sparrow, who can transfer wealth down, but I can also transfer wealth laterally, like to my sister, to my cousins. And then I think because we are truly a communal people and collectivistic people, the beauty of dynastic wealth is you get to transfer wealth up. You get to transfer wealth up to your parents and aunts and uncles and
Okay.
elders. And when my grandmother was still with us, I was, we were transferring wealth up to her. And how that looks is these 5 forms of wealth, right? So not just financial wealth, where it's your business or real estate, stock, or maybe whole life insurance products, but these qualitative forms of wealth, spiritual wealth, like our family identity, Lloyd, right?
Yeah.
Um, the wealth of knowledge, which is our family recipes, because we've been convinced that our family recipes and our family name are of no value. But I'll say that, so there's a series on the History Channel, The Food That Built America. Are you familiar with it?
No, I haven't watched that.
Now that's a case study. That's a case study. It's, I think, 6 seasons in, and what they talk about are the brands that we spend our money on day in and day out. The brands we see in the grocery stores, the restaurants, the Kellogg's, the Campbell Soups, the McDonald's, the Chick-fil-A's that are family owned businesses. These are family recipes. I mean, some families stole them from others, but right. So in the case of Uncle Nearest and Jack Daniels,
Yeah.
But these are family recipes, and that's the wealth of knowledge that's been stripped from us that we have not documented. And so you have financial wealth is the foundation.
Okay.
Spiritual wealth is our family values and the things that make us who we are, is the fabric of our character.
Okay.
There is the wealth of knowledge, family history, family recipes, family traditions. But these last 2 forms of wealth, intellectual wealth, which is how do we intentionally work to become the best versions of ourselves and then transfer the same sort of intention and support our family members. Like, how do we help them become the best versions of themselves as well?
Gotcha.
And then we have relational wealth, and that's the value of our relationships with each other and within the community. Because now we're talking about, how do I make it easier for my cousin? How will Nathalie make it easier for her children, right, to have relationships and social capital in these spaces? We have to bring them with us. And that's what dynastic wealth is really about, ensuring that we're transferring all these different forms of knowledge and of wealth so that nobody feels like they're starting from scratch. We've been starting from scratch every generation. And with dynastic wealth, we get the opportunity to document that and pass that down.
Yeah, you talk about that a lot, that we need to get to the point where we stop starting over and build this. Each generation is having to start over, and you can't build this dynastic wealth with having each generation having to start over.
Right. There's a question that I got on Instagram.
Go ahead.
So someone asked, any recommendations that teach children dynastic wealth and generational wealth for themselves? And I have thoughts, but I'm definitely want to see what you like to share, Lloyd.
Yeah, so like I was thinking about it as you were talking, and I was thinking the lessons I learned from my grandfather, my mother, and my uncles and aunties, and have I passed those down to my children. And now that they're starting to have children, are they going to pass those stuff down? Because character and principles, of what, it's part of my DNA from my mother, and so I leverage a lot of those principles to help me with my success.
Mhm.
And so the question is, can my offspring, do the same? And so I have been sharing lately. I have been sharing with the I have two sons and a daughter, so I've been sharing, those things to kind of make sure they are really getting it. Uh, and from my uh, grandfather, so like I can really take it back, and what I learned a lot from you. So like my grandfather's father was born a slave, and then my grandfather's grandfather, they had voting rights in the 1867 time frame, and then they also put money in the Freedman Bank, and so they the only thing that we've got passed down is a little land, and homes, and stuff like that, but it's just a challenge, to kind of get on the right track with this dynastic wealth building like you're talking about.
Yeah. It truly is the challenge because we have to account for. So what I'll do, I'll take a step back. In the framework for dynastic wealth and in the course, the ebook, the workbook, so there's all these tools.
Yeah.
One of the first things is understanding your family wealth history.
Yeah.
And so what that means is you're gonna have to talk to some elders in the family. You're gonna have to maybe find a genealogist, and I give links for the African American Genealogy and Historical Association. But we have to find those stories. We have to know literally from whence we came. And so to answer the question, as we establish this family history of wealth and also acknowledging what societal barriers our families faced, and
Mhm.
then going through the 5 forms of wealth: financial wealth, spiritual wealth, the wealth of knowledge, intellectual wealth, and relational wealth. The last part is protecting the dynasty. And
Yeah.
how we protect the dynasty is by getting all of that data, because that's data, right?
Yes.
We get all of that data, and it gives us the language for when you go to an estate planner and say, this is how our family constitution should be written. This
Mhm.
is how our family trust should be governed. These are the rules that we want to operate our family trust by. But the way that the children and grandchildren really assume that identity is through a family retreat. Um, I talked a little bit about this last night with a colleague, Nicole Everett, Conversations with Nicole. So the family retreat is not our typical Black family reunion, right? It's not. Did you get your reunion T-shirt? Are you coming to the cookout? You got your scholarship banquet? Like, it's not those things. It's not just those things. It's also having every generation participate in understanding what the family vision for wealth is. And
Gotcha.
that's the distinction, probably one of the most key distinctions between generational wealth and dynastic wealth is we're involving all of the family. So not just your household, Lloyd, but
Yeah.
your cousins that you probably gonna have to work through some relationship
Yeah.
issues with and those
Right.
kinds of things.
Yeah. I started thinking about, like what I learned from my uncles and so like I didn't know it in my grandfather's siblings, but I did learn about some of those siblings. And do you remember hearing anybody talk about the Redbird Cafe in Tallahassee when you were going to fam down in
No.
French?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was down in Frenchtown. There, was the definitely a Black area, and so. But anyway, one of my grandfather's sister used to manage that, and I did notice. So it's a place where all the famous Ray Charles, all the athletes, everybody played that. But I hadn't, so there is a lot of business-minded people in my family. But talking about this is just making me think. So let me ask you this. So like, we on Ancestry.com and these other My Family History, we document our ancestry there, but it's almost sound like you're saying we need to document a bunch of other stuff, and so this is one of our other founders out of our Black Founders program. Black came from Blacks in Technology. Ray, he's working on a family health type family tree.
You have to put us in touch, Lloyd.
Okay. And the reason why I kind of bring that up too, so in our family history, let's say take for me, I had trouble with my prostate gland when I was in high school, and one of my older brothers recently died of prostate cancer. Some uncles on, so the whole thing but I found out that my brother and older brother and one of my cousins, all these years later, just 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years ago, that they had trouble with their prostate when they were in high school.
Wow.
And then one last story is, I found out I had one of the thalassemia traits. I didn't have it tested, but they said that probably I did. And then so finally, just a couple of months ago, I took the blood test. My doctor ordered the blood test, and turned out I have alpha thalassemia, which is a trait that where your hemoglobin starts reading low.
Wow.
And it's come from people from West Africa. And so both my mother and father, African ancestry is from West Africa.
Wow. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because one thing that's so important, and the real Nicole Everett, who she's on now, is just telling you, I was speaking with her yesterday, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So on the heels of financial literacy, going into mental health awareness month, and then June, Juneteenth and family gatherings, this is really all of the pieces that a founder needs to be focused on, because we get so locked in on just operating the business sometimes that we aren't taking care of our health, our physical health, our mental health. Sometimes our relationships are falling apart. But one thing about Dynastic Wealth is it's so holistic, right? You do need to know your family health history, because that's going to determine how hard you can go in the work that you're doing. And I think we don't talk enough to Black and Brown founders about building balance in how we work. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, and the last thing I shared is really significant, because what it means is your blood reads low on hemoglobin. So the worst thing you can do is take more iron. And my niece, she didn't listen to her dad when he told her about this family trait. So she started having some issues. So she went to this clinic or whatever, and they gave her a bunch of iron. She almost died.
Oh my goodness.
That's how serious it is to pass down this information. But from a startup founder standpoint, it sounds like your Dynastic Wealth platform is in all these things, these areas you need to consider. So how, right as it stands right now, I'm going down this trail for a reason. So as it stands right now, how are the families recording this information? How are you suggesting they record all this information that you're doing?
Right. And that's a good question. So kind of going back first, I want to mention AfricanAncestry.com as well.
Yeah, that's used for the African
Gotcha.
heritage, yeah.
Gotcha. So one of my colleagues, one of my really good friends is actually, so Dr. Mary McGee, she's a cultural preservation expert specialist. She actually works at the National Museum of African American History and Culture in DC.
Yeah.
And there are genealogy experts that work at the museum. There's a
Wow.
genealogy, yes.
Okay.
There's a genealogy center that works at the museum. And so anybody can reach out, really kind of share where they are in their journey, and they'll give recommendations and tools on how to conduct an oral history within your family. Like what kind of questions would you want to ask? How do you pair a generation alpha, right, with someone from the silent generation or baby boomers to document your family history? So one of the things that I really am seeing with dynastic wealth is the genius and the brilliance of Black people.
Yeah.
Is like we literally have everything we need when we work together.
Yeah.
So I have identified and been building relationships with genealogists, right? Because I don't want to learn genealogy. I don't want to learn how to do that.
Yes.
But I want to make sure that founders know how to have conversations with a genealogist and an estate planner.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So that's leading me to what I was getting at. Um, so it sounds like to me that all this information needs to be captured somewhere,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
and that's kind of what I was asking you. So what? But I kind of sense that you as a founder using all these new AI vibe coding tools, you need to create this application that captures all this information. And
Okay.
yeah, that's I'm
You
kind
gonna
of,
help me do that.
yeah. So that's one of the points I wanted to make, and was the point of our Black Founders Innovation Summit, and was that these AI tools are getting better and better, and so it's an opportune time for founders, especially for building MVPs, to leverage these tools to kind of move forward. And so, like, I think what I'm hearing, because let's say if I wanted to do this dynastic wealth, you know, I'll probably be trying to store the data in all these different places, and but what I'm thinking, what if there's an application that as I learn this stuff, I can actually put it there, and have it available to for my kids, grandkids, cousins, whatever, like that, and so this is what I would do if I were you.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, and this is real important. So I would you have enough recordings of yourself already, but I would describe what I would want in this platform, and you already know what's in your dynastic wealth platform. But pretend I'm creating an application to house all this information, and that all these family members can log on and see all this stuff. And so what you would do is you would describe that, like on on one of your Zoom. You said which one you use, so you can just record it just with your computer audio or whatever, but just record it and give as much information as you can, and then you generate a transcript from that information. And so, you take that transcript information, upload it to Chat GPT, Claude, or Perplexity, or whatever, and have it create you what I would say would be an architectural design for this platform. And so it's going to translate what you want to have, and it's going to translate it into like an architectural design. So it's just the same kind of way. You want somebody to build a house or a building, you go ask the architect to design it for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the same thing with software. You have to have a software architect that lay out how this thing is structured. And so, but all the different large language models can actually do this for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and so because they can act like a software architect, a senior software architect, and based on what I'm describing to you, lay out me an architecture design, and also have it include all the user stories, how the user would use it, and then so now you put, save that to a PDF, and then go over to, let's say I'll put in the chat, adaptive,
Okay.
um, adaptive. And this was a new thing that just launched last month, adaptive.ai. Um, and it's a vibe coding tool that's built for non-tech founders, people that don't have any coding experience. And so what you would do is like you say, this is an example how I did it. I uploaded that document, the system architectural design for my idea, and I said, please create me a web application based on this attached document, and I gave it my logo, Kakua logo, said, but use that as the brand colors for the application, and just watch this thing start building your application.
Wow. Okay. Adaptive.ai.
Yeah.
Okay. We when we putting the challenge out there, we got to test it out, everybody. We will not be left behind in this AI machine learning era.
Yeah. And so it was literally built for non-tech people. And so as it builds the application, and it'll have a link for the application, but then you can tie your domain to that application, and people can log on to it and all that stuff as well.
Thank you for sharing that.
But you remember how you were recording your stuff, but you can, the same way you do that, you can record what you want to build,
Okay.
and then let the AI create that for you. But for all you founders out there, at a minimum, you can get a working prototype that people can start using an MVP to kind of get going. Yeah.
I'm excited. So I put the link to that. I also, if you want to tell a little bit more before, I know we're getting close to time, but I pinned the link to apply.kakuainstitute.org.
Okay.
Tell a little bit more. So
Okay. Yeah.
So
So basically, when you do sign up for that for that business model design class, what you're not going to be building the application, but you're going to be designing the business model on how you make money with your business model. And so so this may seem a little weird, but all these little small things are business models. They're like the lean canvas.
Okay.
Yeah, the lean canvas. So the first week in the class, you're going to spend 20 minutes. Everything about you're gonna fill out this lean canvas, but it's gonna be like, this is the customer segment, this is the problems thing, this is the solution, this is your unique value proposition, this is your unfair advantage, this is your channels, and this is your cost, and this is your revenue model, your pricing model. And so you're going to dump everything. You're not going to do any research. It's just whatever is in your head. But the training, it's like it shows you how to answer the question. But after you go through the training on how to fill out this out, then you're not supposed to spend more than 20 minutes on it, because it's just literally it's going to keep changing. But then after you do that, this all happens in the first week here. Then you're going to, for each customer segment you have here, you're going to do a separate lean canvas for each one of those. A separate lean canvas. And then, so that's the first week. And so for one customer, so like in your case, your customer segments are ESO organization, Small Business Development Center, that organization that serve founders. Then you also got founders. They're going to use your thing. And then you have relatives of these founders, family members, all these are different customer segments. And then you may even have a licensing model for your material, but then you're going to stress test it for desirability. This is going to happen in the second week. So you're going to take the customer segment, the problem that customer segment already has, and also in this problem thing, what they're currently using to solve their problem. And then what is the value you're going to bring to that customer. So, and you're going to create what is called a why now elevator pitch. And so you're going to, and then you're going to do that for each customer segment. And if that it's not desirable for a customer segment, you're going to scratch it out. But if you notice, one thing that most people, when they do their elevator pitch, they pitch their solution. The solution is this block here. You don't pitch your solution in the elevator pitch.
Okay.
Yeah, and you pitch what value you bring to the person. And then, so once you get that done, then now you're going to stress test for viability. Viability is based on your pricing model. And so, and this one is pretty straightforward. So all you're going to need is you're going to take one of your prices. If you got a lot of different products, you take one of them or the one you think is going to be most popular, and you can do this for each one of them. And then the metrics, this is your metrics area. The metrics are already given, your referrals, your acquisition rate, your growth rate, your churn rate, all this stuff is already given. And so what you're going to do, you're going to set a financial goal for 3 years for your business. And then that financial goal, you're going to plug that into the tool, and then it's going to work backwards with all those other metrics and plan out your 3-year thing for what you have to do each month in order to reach that financial goal.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then this is a tool that you use over and over again to kind of make sure you got your pricing right. Because if written on your pricing, it might say you need to see 300 people a month. You may need to see 1,000 people a month. If you can't see 1,000 people a month, that's not a good price.
Right. And especially we're talking about dynastic wealth, like the foundation is financial wealth, and that will come from profitability. So that's so
right. And then this happens, these two happen, this feasibility stress test, it also happens in the 3rd week. And that's where you're looking at your costs and your solution and your unfair advantage and your and your channels. And then you take all this information that you learned here and you put it in your business model story pitch. That's what you do in the 4th week.
Okay.
And then so we picked the top 10 founders that out of the class based on the work they did here, and they get to do their business model story pitch on the demo day, and then 3 of those founders will win $1,000. But this point sets you up in a position that you know how to articulate how you make money with your business. So when you're filling out an application for a pitch competition, you got the secret sauce that you need, and you got the traction roadmap on your viability test that tells you what you need to do step by step to get to your goal.
That's good. That's good. So it sounds like King Joe and the real Nicole Everett will be completing their applications before the deadline, which is what, June 9th?
June 9th.
Okay.
Yeah. And go ahead and sign up, and I'll send you an invite. I'm gonna have some pre-sessions starting next Monday, this coming Monday, in just a few days. And so you remember I showed you a business model design prompt earlier? That business model design prompt, it just needs your business idea and the industry, and it does all of this for you in 5 minutes.
You hear that? Do y'all hear that?
Yeah, so it's really neat. We got a lot of tools to help you get through it, and we got 3 level 3 leans. This is the lean stack platform. We got 3 level 3 coaches and 8 or 9 level 1 coaches. So we got all the experts, but you also get an AI agent that actually leads you through the course that you can ask it any questions.
Wow, Lloyd, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
But before, look, you got to tell them about the gift that you sent me today using AI.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that you all can thank Tony for that. Let me see if I can
Hey,
pull that up.
Tony.
Yeah, and so let's see here, get my screen squared away here. I did have it up, but I'll actually pull yours up, and then yeah, and then that way we can actually see it. It's Notebook LM is the tool we're using,
Mhm.
and so the I'll let me.
While you're putting it up, I'm just gonna share the impact that this had on me.
Okay.
I was listening to it. I was driving from a networking event, and I was listening to it. And Lloyd, I promise you, it brought tears to my eyes because it really sounded like the kind of platforms that I want to get Dynastic Wealth on and elevate it because of the impact that it can have. So I'll let you take it. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so this is Notebook LM, and if you have a Gmail account, you have Notebook LM, and it's just Notebook LM. It's just a bunch of notebooks that you can create. As you can see, I've created quite a. But the way I got your information, Dr. White, and it was literally, it was simple. Yeah, I guess you did an interview recently, and it was posted on YouTube.
Mhm.
So I went and got the transcript from that YouTube, and I put it in a PDF and uploaded to ChatGPT, and I literally asked it, you know, so what is Dr. White's business model? And it's explain your whole business model.
Sure did. It sure did.
And then I took that same transcript, and I said I got the business model idea prompt, and I did a prompt with, I say, use the attached transcript, and I had to run the whole business idea prompt on there. But I took some information from that and I pasted in. These are the things the sources that I actually use. Um, um, and literally, if that, I just use only the stuff I got from ChatGPT,
Mhm.
but I could have went out here and said discover, and I could do a prompt, and it'll go out and find all the information on you and add it to as a source. So it's like deep research.
Mhm.
But yeah, then it just creates this thing, and I don't know if you haven't seen this, but I'll have it create a mind map for of the information.
Okay. Can you play a clip of what you shared with me?
I can definitely do that. And so, but I'd have to make sure I'm sharing the volume. But
Okay.
yeah, but that whole thing, it created a mind map for your whole thing here, LaTanya.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you can keep going further and further out.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, and then you can. I just want to show you some of the other features, just so you'll be aware of, so it motivates some people. You can just create a study guide instantly based on what you had, question and answers based on there, a briefing document. I'm not sure how good the timeline is, but up
Mhm.
here where you do that, and I'm not sure if I'm sharing audio or not, but let me just.
Let's give it a try because it was so good.
I'm gonna unshare and then reshare to make sure I'm sharing audio. Let's see. Because that's otherwise it won't. It won't. Let's see. Okay, it says. Let me see if this is going to stay there. Oh no, it went away. So I'm going to bring it back to a tab, and share the. Let me. This won't take but a second, but let me put it back over here with the thing here. And I'm going to share a tab instead, and then that way you'll be able to hear it.
Okay.
And bear with us, folks. This is worth the, because
It is.
I haven't shared with you everything that this thing does yet. Let's see if, okay, here it is. Okay, so you see the thing, and you see the screen?
Yep, sure do.
I'm gonna hit play.
Okay, so let's talk about this projection. It's pretty stark. By 2053, the median net worth for Black Americans could actually hit zero.
Zero. Yeah.
Zero. I mean, that's not just a number, right? It feels like a massive alarm bell. It's telling us something is deeply, deeply wrong.
It absolutely is. And, that kind of projection, it reflects generations of systemic issues. It really highlights why just sort of tinkering around the edges of existing programs probably isn't going to cut it.
Exactly. We need something fundamentally different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're really diving into today. We're looking at this really interesting new approach from Dr. LaTanya White and her organization, Concept Creative Group.
Yeah, Dr. White's background is
Lloyd, it's
I'm gonna show you something.
Okay, so let's talk about this projection.
Oh, hey there. What's up?
Yeah, I want to know a little bit more about Dr. White's background.
That's a great question.
Yeah, her background is really key to understanding all of this.
She's not just an academic,
Right. She's been in the trenches as a founder herself,
And then she spent over a decade teaching entrepreneurship.
primarily at an HBCU, which gave her a really specific perspective,
Exactly. She saw firsthand the challenges her students faced.
even the really bright and driven ones.
It wasn't just about a lack of desire or skills,
There were systemic barriers at play,
and that frustration, seeing those limitations,
led her to pursue her doctorate.
where she really dug into why Black families haven't built wealth at the same rate. This became the foundation for Concept Creative Group.
So it's not just theory, it's
Yeah, so you didn't know about that part, did you? Yeah, but
that so this is Notebook LM that's tied to our Gmail account. Is that what I heard?
yeah, anybody that has a Gmail account, you also have access to free Notebook LM, and also you also have access to Google AI Studio and Gemini, and you literally, yeah, it's just amazing what you can do with that stuff. But yeah.
Wow. So what you're saying is there is no excuse to not have a podcast these days? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, yeah, you can, yeah. But really, I what I do with it, and I know we're over time here. What I do is I actually, so I took that system architectural design for the application I was doing for the Black Founder program, what I call a launch pad, and all the features I want in it. And I actually uploaded that document to this thing and had it and talked to my application.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And I know we only scratched the surface. So wow.
Yeah, it's definitely scratching the surface. But the bottom line is all these tools out there to kind of help you go forward. And Tony, he took all this training stuff and he helps it. That so you can literally take some of your training materials, upload it, have a notebook, and have it, create a podcast on what the story. So yeah, it's really a neat tool that's free. All righty. Well, we'll appreciate you coming on, and so we'll work together, and we'll see how your vibe coding experience go, and to get you going on your application. And it's really what the dilemma is that founders have. You're building something that's not been built before, and so and you need to integrate to all these different things, and so yeah, it's just when I literally tell you that I describe my thing and just kept working on the architectural design, and then when I upload it, and in just a few minutes, I had an app that you could actually log into.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're listening. You're gonna take us to the promised land with these AI tools.
Yeah, but that's what the deal is now is it's with all these tools now, you have the power to overcome some of these barriers that you actually have.
Sure, sure.
And some of the things that's been holding you back.
Yeah.
All righty, it's always a blast chatting with you, and I look forward to seeing you. And make sure your stuff finish uploading to the
Okay.
cloud, and we'll be good. Everybody, we'll see you all next week. I'll get a couple. We're gonna have do these next 3 weeks. We're gonna do some founders. I've been meeting some founders of attending some of these events, and so they get them to share their story and how to kind of move forward.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.